In this lecture, we're going to be learning how to do head studies. So in this section, we're going to be learning how to paint the human head and the human face. And one of the best ways we can really accomplish this is by doing head studies. And what these are is they're just really quick, rough paintings. They don't have to be super detailed or anything like that. So we have 3 heads here in this Photoshop file that you can download in the resources. And what we're going to do is we're just going to do these quick paintings. So I'm going to switch over to a more of a painterly brush. So I have one right here called texture paint brush, but you can use a hard round brush, just something with opacity, pressure sensitivity. And let's go ahead and let's start with this black and white one first. So we're going to do the black and white one first, just because it'll be a little bit easier because there won't be color involved with it. And I want to paint her right where she is right now. So what I'll do is I'll move her actual image over like that. And then make sure you add a new layer to paint on. And then we can go ahead and start painting. So let's color pick a few colors off of her. So sometimes when you're learning how to paint from images, it's really useful to color pick. Sometimes you want to guess, and other times you want to color pick because that will actually give you a good idea, especially if you're not familiar with values in color. So if we go ahead and we color pick, like here, for example, you can see that that's about a mid-tone gray. This area right here that looks white isn't actually white. So by color picking a few colors, you can see that we get a better idea of what the colors actually are. And that will help you in the future going forward when you're painting your own paintings. So let's color pick 3 different values. So I'm going to go ahead and color pick this lightest value right here. I'll go ahead and paint a little splotch of it like that. And then let's go ahead and color pick a mid-tone value. So I'll go ahead and select this value right there. And actually that's a little bit too dark. So maybe I'll select something like this shadow right here. Maybe we'll actually go with 4 different values. And I'll color pick this darker shadow right here. And then I'll go ahead and color pick the hair, which is, I think, the darkest value. All right, perfect. So now we can go ahead and start painting with these 3 values, and we'll just use them and blend them together to get the look that we want. Let's go ahead and let's start with the darkest value. Not the hair one, actually, but the second darkest. We're going to use this to start sketching out our image. So we're just going to try to copy the same size over. So the bottom of the chin should be somewhere right about there. Top of the hairline should be something like that. Top of the hair should be somewhere up here. Let's see. The center of the face is just a straight line looking forward. And it's angled too. Her head is cocked a little bit, so we want to make sure that we get that in there. We just want to keep this drawing really rough. The quicker you can do these paintings, the better, because then the more you can do. And it also really teaches you how to paint fast. So let's just try to go quick with this. And I'm just constantly looking over at my reference. You should be looking at your reference about 50% of the time or more. The more you can look at your reference, the better. If you're just looking at your drawing or painting the whole time, what it is that you think it looks like probably is not how it actually looks. And that's the point of doing studies, is you're trying to learn what it actually looks like. Go ahead and add that neck in. I'm paying attention to the relationships, like how far over from the side of the face to the neck, how far is that? So we want to make sure that we're capturing things like that. I'm drawing this shawl type thing. All right, I think we're ready to start really painting this in. So I'm going to stick to the same color right here that I have. I'm just going to bring my brush size up. I'm going to grab actually a different paintbrush, something more painterly. So something like a texture brush, paintbrush. And I'm going to start just by painting in basically anywhere where I had this darker shadow. So we get it right here on our cheekbones. Let's go ahead and just paint in her eye socket so we can come back and add in highlights later. But we just want to kind of fill that in basically. And I'm going to leave this part over here for a less dark shadow. Paint in the side of the head. Just keep it nice and messy at the beginning, because as we go along, we can keep reshaping our shapes or forms. If you start getting too detailed about it, or you start getting too caught up in every tiny little piece of your painting, it's going to hold you back. It's better to just kind of be free with it and really start out really loose and really rough, and then as you go along, just keep refining and refining until you finally get to the end, which is where you get to add all your details and make everything look really nice and polished. But for now, we just want to keep it super, super rough. Go ahead and add something in for the lips, like that, the nose. So right now, what I'm mostly paying attention to are the shapes and the relationship between the shapes, and just making sure that everything is about the right size, the right proportion. If this doesn't look exactly like her, that's okay. We're not necessarily trying to paint for likeness. We're trying to understand the human head and the face and the way it's lit. Just really everything we can understand about it. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and select my less darker gray, and I can use that to do the other eye socket because that one's a little bit lighter. I can even start painting in a little bit of a highlight in that eye, maybe down here as well. Get some shadow down this side of the nose as well as this side. Some shadow over here and some shadow over here. A good way to really look at your reference image and see the values and the basic shapes and stuff like that is to squint your eyes. If you squint your eyes, it's going to really simplify your image, make it much easier to paint. So I'm constantly squinting my eyes when I'm looking over at my painting, just simplifying all the values and simplifying their shapes. Now this is super similar to how you'd paint this in real life. If you were painting with oil paintings, this is how I do it. I do it the same way. I just start roughing in really basic values, or if we're doing a color painting, I'd use really basic colors and values, so like 3 to 4 of them, and then I would go in there and I'd start blending those together, but I'd try to stick to only painting with those 3 colors when I'm doing studies, or 4 colors. All right, let's go ahead and let's pick the lightest color and let's start painting in these highlighted areas. So this all might look really extreme, and you kind of want it to look extreme. You want the eyes to be these extreme sort of sunglasses, and you want the highlights to be really extreme, almost like a art poster filter that you can put on in Photoshop or something like that. You want it to kind of look like that, and then we'll go and we'll start blending and softening all these things down. You don't have to push with full opacity as well. You can just paint transparently as well with this light color. I'll go ahead and take my eraser and kind of clean up my drawing a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and select this almost black color. Then we can go ahead and paint in the hair area as well as her shawl. Don't forget that you're painting with a transparent or slightly transparent brush, so you might have to push harder, or you might have to go over it a few times to really get that full opaque color. Now I'm really paying attention to her hairline, making sure that I'm drawing that hairline in correctly. Also, the profile of her face is really important as well. Bring her hair down a little bit more. And then I can go ahead and take this lighter gray and add a little bit of some highlighting into the hair. So add a little bit more definition and shape and direction to this hair, so that we can actually kind of see her hairstyle a little bit better. You can see that I'm just painting with kind of a big brush. I'm not really going in there with really fine, small detail. I'm just really blocking this in nice and simple. I'm going to come back over here with this lighter gray and start to kind of tone down this highlight. All right, great. So now let's go in there and let's start detailing this in a little bit more. I'm going to start using my color picker and kind of start blending and reshaping some of these shapes, as well as focusing on my edge quality, making sure that it's either hard or soft edge depending on what I want it to be. So let's go ahead and begin. It's just color picking, blending these values in. All right, great. That looks pretty good. So it's just a simple, straightforward head study. It looks kind of like her, but I know it doesn't look exactly like her. But like I said, that's not the point. The point is to just try to understand the human head and capture it in painting form. So let's go ahead and let's try one more. So let's go ahead, let's turn these off. Then let's go ahead and let's turn this guy on right here. We'll move him over like that. We're going to paint him right here. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to start by selecting our colors. So using my eyedropper tool, and I'll add a new layer for my painting layer. I'm going to go ahead and select a few of these colors, some of the main colors. So what we want to do is we want to squint our eyes and look for the light colors, the dark colors, and the mid-ground colors. So when I squint my eyes, up here is probably the darkest color. So I'll make that my dark color. Go ahead and paint a dark splotch like that. And I'm going to go ahead and move that over. All right, then let's go ahead and let's select squinting our eyes. This is probably the next darkest color. Oops, let's unselect out of that. Let's keep squinting our eyes. Then the next lightest color I would say is probably right here. And then let's get a color for the beard. So just kind of like an average color in there. So something like that. That'll be our beard color. And let's also grab this light color out here for the highlight of the beard. And let's go ahead and let's grab a color for the hat. So we'll grab that color for the dark part of the hat. Let's go ahead and grab this color for the light part of the hat. Perfect. And now we have a few colors that we can pick from to draw with. I'm going to go ahead and move these down like that. And let's go ahead and let's paint our drawing with this dark brown color. So I'm going to stick to the same paintbrush I'm using. And we just want to basically copy what we see over here on over. So the bottom of the chin should be somewhere right about there. The top of the hat should be somewhere right about there. It's just kind of a straight line down the front of his face. Leave some room over here for the hat. All right. Do a center line for the front of the face. We can barely see the other side of his face, but there is a tiny bit there. So we want to do a center line like that with a little bit of space over there. The nose comes across and kind of starts somewhere right about there. Pretty close up to the top of the hat. Just kind of blocking that nose. Nice and simple. Kind of start to draw that hat in. His mouth. Beard. Let's try to capture the same kind of pocket that he has right there on his cheek, where there's no hair. All right, and then let's go ahead and move up to this ear right here. So we don't want it to be any higher. We want the top of the ear to be in line with the eyebrows or the eye, either one. Start drawing in the eyebrow and the eye. Just keep this super rough. We can start painting all the detail in later. The back of the hat. To his collar. Something nice and simple. And then let's go ahead and grab the lasso tool. Let's move these colors out of here a little bit more so we have a little bit more space. Let's go ahead and move his head down a little bit more as well. All right, so once again, we're just going to start really messy. We're going to start with the darkest color, or the darkest color of the skin at least. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that brown. Then using our brush, let's just go ahead and start painting in the areas that we see that are the darkest. So the darkest areas that I'm seeing are kind of under the chin. So I'm going to add some of that down there. A little bit underneath this ear, and a little bit inside the ear as well. I'm going to add a little bit of this in here, where the eye socket is. We also get the shadow hanging down from the hat. A little bit right here underneath the nose, and a little bit on that lip. But there's not actually too much of this dark color. All right, next, let's go ahead and let's switch over to this next color, or skin tone. And basically, this is going to get filled in everywhere. We'll come back with some lighter highlights on top of it in a second. But first, let's just go ahead and fill in basically anywhere where there's skin. All right, great. Let's go ahead and let's select this gray color right here for the beard, and let's just fill in all the shadow areas of the beard. Then we'll go ahead and we'll select this light color, and let's paint in the highlighted part of the beard. Just kind of right along here in the front. We can come back and blend those into each other later. Let's go ahead, let's select this lighter color right here, or this color right here. We can add a little bit of that into the skin tone. Just kind of right here on the front of the cheek and a little bit on the nose. It's not a huge difference between those, but it'll just kind of help vary the color a little bit. And then let's go ahead, let's do the hat. So I'm going to go ahead and select this color for the dark parts of the hat. Just quickly and roughly block those in. We'll take the light color, block that in. All right, great. So now what we want to do is we want to do what we did before, where we take these blocked in colors and we start blending them together, reshaping things, adding more form to it. So I'm going to go ahead and get started, and I'll see you guys when I'm done. All right, there we go. So there's our second study. So remember that when you're doing these, just start out really loose, figure out your shapes, your lines, your form and everything. And then once you're done with that, then you can go in and start really detailing things out. And remember that you only want to pick a few colors from the image. Don't paint with too many colors. You just want to keep it really simple. So your assignment is to just basically take this last image. So I'll turn these off. To take this image and go ahead and paint your own head study. Just paint it right here in the same spot. Just move the image out of the way and that'll be good. Thanks for watching this lecture, and I'll see you guys in the next one.